In the last video where we reviewed Mythic Plus footage, we talked about the tank doing too much. Now this video is going to show you the exact opposite. And I think this is really going to exemplify why tanking is the most important role in the group if you watch both of these videos together. And you'll see most importantly how other people react to tanks in the group and why that has created this unnecessary pressure on an already difficult role. Let's take a look at these two clips here today. I really think they're going to be something we're going to be talking about for a long time to come. Now, ironically, both are going to take place in City of Threads, which I think is one of the worst dungeons. If you guys didn't see yesterday, I made a clip about this dungeon, an absolutely absurd situation that really should never occur in this game in a timed setting had occurred, and it caused us to fail and disband the key. See just how hard some of this trash is for people too. Fighting this pack especially, these mobs, the 3 casters just spamming casts, people not accurate. I mean, like this Death Knight just not interrupting anything and everybody's dying around him, right? A lot of really complicated mechanics on some of this trash, and especially as the tank, there's a lot to be aware of and a lot to be learning from as the potential points of failure go. But we have a funny mistake in both clips, so I do want to take the time to show that off too if you didn't see it. The big guy does like a giant frontal. Let's watch that unfold right here. He's going to turn around and start casting a frontal that is like really easy to dodge, right? But not if you're a demon hunter. Watch that guy just he just literally like dashes right in front of it. Look at that. You can see, you're going to see a move kind of at the last second. He's going to kind of position right in front of it, and then he's just going to fell rush right into it and then get knocked all the way back. Then he's going to go ahead and say, damn fell rush. All right. Now, so we're pointing that out because it's humorous. You could laugh at it, whatever, but we're also pointing it out because of what comes next. And this same thing happens in both clips. And this is why I'm making this video the way I am. So minutes after this guy uses a class mobility spell and gets himself killed and then decries the spell itself, here's the first few seconds of this boss. Watch this. Here comes the tank charging in. 3, 2, 1. Pay attention to the Demon Hunter's health bar. Instantly dead. And then he types aggro lol, then he dies again. Okay, watch that one. So he pulls threat on the pull here, instantly dies to that. He's gonna get the battle res, takes the battle res right after the frontal mechanic, but the 2 debuffs go out. Okay, this guy up in the right corner is gonna get dispelled. The dispel hits the demon hunter, and the demon hunter again dies to the frontal. And then at that point the tank also dies. Let's rewatch that. Try to watch this all play out. He's gonna complain about aggro. He's gonna take the res, then the debuff is gonna go out on 2 people that aren't him. The one guy's going to get instantly dispelled. It's going to hit the demon hunter and it's going to hit the tank. The tank actually walks back into it and he also gets stunned and killed. So a plethora of things going wrong, right? Like within a few minutes of dungeon combat, we have like 7 or 8 different mistakes that you could identify. But the Death Knight then says you can't be impatient and invite a tank, brother. Basically saying they invited a bad tank who doesn't know what he's doing. Another DPS jumping on this bandwagon here that it is the tank's problem here and that he made the mistakes. So let's identify what actually goes wrong here, right? Like a bunch of really sloppy play from both the healer and the DPS. Obviously, if you get hit by that dispel, that is potentially on the DPS purely there, but it could also, you could also say like the healer dispelling when he did was a little sloppy. But at the end of the day, they can both do things to improve their situation there. But the initial death, the guy dying to threat, this is a little bit more nuanced, right? Because as a tank on a single target is definitely your job to be taunting that boss. You know everybody is going to be popping all their offense on the pull, right? So if you don't do that, it's very likely that you are going to struggle with threat. But I think a lot of people are very quick to blame any threat issues purely on the tank when, of course, as a DPS, especially at one point in the game, but at all points in the game, you should be monitoring the likelihood of you dying to threat. There is a two-way street here. That's the way I've always described it. You can go either direction. If the DPS monitors their threat and the tank is struggling, then the DPS will survive. If the DPS is not monitoring the threat and the tank is monitoring threat for them and doing everything he can to keep threat, then the DPS will survive. It can go either direction. Whichever direction seems to be the most functional should be considered. And in this case, yes, you can blame the tank for not taunting, but as the demon hunter, you could also just give him a second. He just kind of opened on the boss before the tank properly opened. So that's one clip. The next one that I'm going to show you is even crazier. Let's take a look at that one now. And just like the the first clip, we have to watch the pack prior to the boss. It's eerily similar. Actually, almost the exact same problem unfolds. Here comes the frontal. Look at the mage. 3, 2, 1. Alter times back into his death. Watch that again if you didn't see it. Luckily, this guy's got icicles over his head, so you could see him a little bit. So he's right here, and he kind of walk. He almost looks like he tries to blink out, and then alter time pulls him back in. Either that, or it's just like really, really suboptimal movement. Like, look at how long it takes him to just kind of walk out of that. It's almost like he gets confused. I do think his alter time gets emoted or whatever. Like, I think that was what that was ultimately, but it's funny, right? Eerily similar. We had the same situation. Using a spell in your class, getting you killed on trash. Okay, nobody comments on that, right? We'll come back to that. There's another example, just like we saw in the last piece of footage. Watch, the balls are going to go out. They're going to pick the Frost Death Knight and the Frost Mage. Looks like Frost Death Knight is going to get dispelled, and it's going to hit the Frost Mage, and the Frost Mage is going to die there. So we have a damage dealer dead. Obviously, we want to battle res that guy, right? We're still doing the fight, so he's going to go ahead and battle res him as the movement comes out. He battle reses him. The guy takes the res during the movement. We move sluggishly, and actually, it is not even him who dies. The healer ends up dying there. Here's us taking a break from this discussion to go back to talking about how absurdly bad this dungeon is. I've had this happen to me too, right? You're done killing this thing, but I guess it takes like so much time to get the buff from it because this guy's going to walk ahead and try to fight the next mob, and because the game just was designed poorly, he's going to get stunned. Now everybody's up there tanking this mob without a tank. It takes them all the way back here. Anyway, that's not the only problem they're going to have in this area, okay? So here is where things start to become a video. We have these mobs that you have to go and kind of touch to aggro, and then once they all come out, everybody's like fighting on them, and you know, everybody's kind of fighting for threat out of the gate here. It's like the mobs are all spawning at the same time, so everybody's there at the exact same global no matter what. This is one of like the biggest tips I would ever give somebody as a tank, is always make sure you are there for that first global. You want to get a global lead on any damage dealers, and you will have that threat lead then just for the rest of the combat. So in this situation, we didn't have that. The tank was kind of a little unsure. I think maybe he didn't know that they were about to spawn for whatever reason. And then as you see, the red and yellow health bar means that he does not have threat currently. So he is struggling to retain that threat on these targets. And the resto druid who battle res somebody into their death and then somehow ends up dying himself during it says, "Tank, why can't you hold aggro?" The response from the tank is actually a great one. He just says shrug. Like, he doesn't know himself, which is a totally different problem altogether. But the Death Knight takes the time to chime in because, you know, he's got some really important things to say. He says, LOL, laugh out loud. Now look at the same problem. This is the same problem I made the clip on, right? Not as pronounced as our problem. But anyway, the Death Knight's still going on about this. He says he's doing 10 times less damage. That's just the cutoff for threat. I don't know if this is him bragging or if it's him blaming, but he's basically saying that like the tank is just simply doing too little damage to have threat, so it's not unexpected. Now, this conversation is more severe than it might immediately look, because all of this conversation is unfolding while they're navigating this stupid maze, and the tank is now going to be preoccupied with that mentally, and watch the mistake he's going to actually make here. He's going to try to skip through here, but there's the mini boss that is going to aggro, and that is going to cause even more problems for them. So they're still talking about this, by the way. The Death Knight now says, you're just doing too little damage. It's not your fault per se. Okay, good way to put it, I guess. So you can see how this is all leading to additional stress levels for any player. But here we go. We're fighting the boss here. You're going to barely be able to see this happen, okay? Over on the left side of the screen, this is the resto druid, okay? Watch this unfold here. Let's see if we can pause it right at the right second. You're going to see the line go out. Look who's just standing still, okay? That guy's just going to bathe in that. He's going to die to this mechanic. You can see the 6th death up here. So this is, you know, again, the guy who's commenting on what other people are doing in the dungeon, just kind of AFK in a mechanic. He then brings it up after the fight is over. He comments on it. He says, my bad, had to talk to someone IRL, okay, in the middle of the Mythic Plus boss fight. Great idea. I wonder who he was talking to. You guys leave a comment down below. Okay, here we go. Now this is where things pop off. We're going to fight all of this dangerous trash up here. We're going to kind of struggle to pull. I mean, that was a little sloppy of an intro there to the pull, and the Death Knight's got everything up, so he is going to be on top of the DPS chart yet again. And you see these frames going from blue to red late into the pack. That means that this guy is simply just doing too much damage. Now, I'm not sure why this guy does this. I mean, he just walks out of a pack doing 6 million damage, and then this is when things become totally critical and totally unacceptable. Watch how this next pack unfolds, okay? Look at this. This guy is actually going to straight up aggro the pack. Like, he is there by at least 1 global ahead of the tank. It's almost like not even a global. Like, he actually goes out of his way to aggro aggro it. Watch this. Watch this all unfold again, all right? This is the guy who just did 6 million damage. I don't know if he still has CDs up or what, but he drops D&D and just simply walks into the pack alone and gets killed. Like, there's not even other damage dealers there as he does that. Look, there I paused it right when he drops the Death and Decay. He's not even in range. Like, the dude's 30 yards away from the pack. Why would you do this? It's like he wants to die here. There's not even another DPS anywhere near the pack. Like, even the mage isn't going to be able to do damage at this point. I mean, this is just suicide. If you do this as a DPS and you expect to survive, you're insane. There's nothing else that can be said about this, okay? And look at the conversation that unfolds. The mage says, bruh, the resto druid, who has just fucking AFK in the middle of a boss fight, says, tank, you need to figure out how to hold threat, dog. You're doing fucking 10s. Again, look, admits to being AFK. You said I'm AFK in the middle of an encounter and I died to it. There's a timestamp on the chat. It says 6:02. I went AFK. My bad. The timestamp says 6:03. Tank, you need to figure out how to play the game better. Like, after the guy walks in and suicides, 1 minute of real time go by, the healer just went AFK and died, admits to it, then blames the tank for the DPS suiciding. So tell me how this is not the most stressful role, right? In both of these situations, multiple ridiculous mistakes happen. DPS suicide multiple times. I showed you multiple clips of them killing themselves, okay? All of those people are commenting on another player playing poorly. Nobody makes a comment about their bullshit, right? The tank doesn't say like, lol, why'd you bell rush into your death there, idiot? Nobody says anything to them. Totally unprovoked, they then make another mistake and blame the tank for it. In the first clip, it's a little bit worse because yeah, the tank, you should definitely be taunting there. Second clip, no fucking way, dude. That guy is suiciding. If you do that, you die. Like I say all the time, you need to be a global leader. You need to be in front of the DPS. That guy did the opposite. He went in front of the tank, right? How could you do that? That's inexcusable, especially from somebody who seems to know what they're doing. The guy just did 6 million damage on that pack. He obviously knows how to play the spec. He should know better, right? And for these guys to actually blame the tank there, it is unimaginable. I never would imagine something like this would happen in some type of competitive environment. This is a 10, guys. The first clip was a 9. Now I'm showing you a 10. This is not a 2. This is not a mythic 0. These are people who apparently are supposed to be able to play the game to some level, right? Because I keep hearing about how hard low keys are and how difficult it is to even get to 10. So if you're doing a 10, you're a top percentile player. Here we go. Top percentile DPS and healers making ridiculous mistakes. Nobody gives a shit. They get full passes on these ridiculous mistakes, and then the tank makes one relatively small error. Really, in the second video, he almost doesn't even make an error. That Death Knight is simply doing more damage than him early in the first part of the clip, and in the second part of the clip actually suicides. So you almost can't even say the tank made an error. Like, could he outplay that? Yes, but under no circumstances would you expect him to. These guys flame him. Unfathomable. Unbelievable. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.